Live exports have dominated the animal welfare debate in recent times, taking some of the heat away from the issue of mulesing sheep. The majority of Tasmanian merinos still have the operation. Flesh cut away from their rear ends without anaesthetic. The industry had agreed to phase the procedure out by the end of last year, but some stakeholders say it was a mistake to set such a timeline. One Tasmanian farmer who has stopped mulesing says the way to end it is breeding the right sort of sheep.
This job came up as property manager in Tasmania, and I said to Lynn, come on, let's go and have a sea change. So we came to Bruning.
10 years ago, Bruce Michael came from South Australia to manage Murrayfield on Bruny Island after it was bought by the Indigenous Land Corporation. Set up by the federal government to buy land not covered by native title, the corporation buys properties for cultural, environmental, business and training reasons.
I'm one of the chairpeople of Weedapuna, and Weedapuna is the Aboriginal organisation that works in conjunction with Murrayfield, our farm, and we work with the ILC, so our group is a local group in the area.
Murrayfield was the site of George Robinson's first Tasmanian Aboriginal mission.
There's a lot of cultural sites on the farm, there's a lot of history.
Although not Indigenous, Bruce Michael's background is in corporate farming.
The ILC, Indigenous Land Corporation, has got a terrific management group around it and a terrific structure that allows you to fix up the places.
There's a fine line between a farm making a profit and a farm being in good order, and I think that we've struck that line very well at the farm.
As well as Indigenous heritage, the 4,000 hectare property's got significant environmental features.
It's got quite large stands of grass trees that are on the property that haven't been affected by Phytophthora. We've also got quite large nesting sites for the swift parrot, so the swifties are running around at present, and the Apollo Bay run is Robinson's range is very good for that, and we've also got some really good nesting sites for the 40-spotted pardalotes.
It's also got one of Tasmania's most spectacular birds of prey, the white-bellied sea eagle. And around 10 kilometres of coastal fringe has been fenced off.
The main aspect of the business is not generally treating it, let's run more stock. If we run more stock, we've got to be more profitable. Is that let's run that same number of stock, but run them better.
After spending over $1 million on infrastructure and pasture improvements, Murrayfield is now riding high on the sheep's back.
When we first took it over, we were probably making a break even or little losses. Right at the moment, I think last financial year we had a $270,000 profit. The previous year before that it was about $170,000, and this year we're projecting around $300,000 worth of profit.
Over the years we've increased production and we've altered management systems so it's more profitable, and that's what, that's our role.
Bruce Michael's brother, Andrew, runs the family farm in South Australia. He's been at the forefront of sheep genetics.
We know exactly how those animals are going to perform.
Murrayfield operates on the same principle. It's all about selective breeding. What are we looking at here?
So this is 43. He's the top performing ram from his age group, so he's 3-year-old now, and he's the ram that we've been using in the special ewes.
Is this the one that's come from your brothers?
All these have 867 and 918 come from the same sire. They go back to 154, and 154 is a trait lead of plain breech. That means it doesn't have any wrinkles on his bum.
None of these rams have been mulesed, and they're part of a breeding program to improve the quality of Murrayfield's stock. Each year, thousands of young merino lambs across Australia have flesh cut from their rear ends to prevent potentially fatal fly strike. Opponents say it's cruel and unnecessary and have led boycotts on Australian wool from mulesed sheep. In Tasmania, there are around 2 million sheep, 80% of them merinos. On the latest figures from the Farmers and Graziers Association, 3/4 of them are still mulesed.
It's certainly a brutal operation, because I gave the analogy once when I was talking to people. If you took your sheep and took it to Salamanca on a Saturday morning, would you mulese your sheep on Saturday morning in Salamanca? And you wouldn't. There would not be a farmer to do it.
The wrinkles, which have become synonymous with the merino, were as a result of imports from the United States in the 19th century.
These are both merinos, but
yes,
they're dramatically different.
And this is, so that's 1874, taken in the Allied Hills, and then we moved from that sort of typical sheep then to this type of animal, which goes back to the Vermont sheep. The theory was the more wrinkle you put in, the more skin area you have, the more wool you can produce. That was fine until the blowfly came, because the blowfly is not an endemic species to Australia. It was introduced, and hence you had these sheep that were completely unprotected from fly strike, and all of a sudden were there ready to be struck.
Mr Michael's breeding rams are taking the Murrayfield merino back to the pre-wrinkle sheep that don't need to be mulesed.
So what we can see here is that firstly there's no wrinkles on the bottom, and secondly there's a bare patch below its anus. So it's going to help so it doesn't get dags caught on the back end.
The selective breeding has opened up marketing opportunities.
The people that buy our wool are an American-based company. The main criteria is that it's non-mules. We can be audited to make sure that we're non-mules, and we have the right environmental practices set up as well.
It's like Forest Stewardship Council accreditation for wool.
More and more people want to know this wool is being produced ethically, because this is what it's about. The word for our wool production now is ethical wool production, whether it be environmental or animal husbandry practices.